Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds, and welcome to my book garden. I'm Rosebud Reads, and I'm so happy that you're here today. Um, I think this is our fourth reading of Thousand Autumns, book 2. So we're kind of moving through. I think next week we'll actually finish this. Next Thursday. It seems like these books, I haven't broken up the other ones, but it seems like these books are pretty much 6 live streams a book. So like 3 weeks a book. That's pretty quick, honest opinion. Hello, Chi Chi Kiki. How you doing tonight? Good, I hope. But yeah. Oh, hi Mars Rover. How you doing tonight? You're doing good, Chi Chi Kiki. I'm glad to hear it. Regarding these books and the streams, this is a chill stream. I'll be talking to the book, to myself, to my lovely, lovely chat. If that's not your thing, that's okay. It's not everybody's thing, but maybe stay, see if it is okay. And you never know, you might enjoy it. I'm doing good, Momars Rover. Had some stomach stuff yesterday, but I'm much better today. I actually was good to myself and took the day off yesterday, so much better. Thank you for asking. No, the change in weather messes with everything, but yeah, no. It's like that saying that I made. Mind like bull, body like China. My body likes being like China. And breaking itself frequently. So I'm used to it, but thank you. And I'm glad I'm feeling better too. No. I am not sponsored. I do not own anything. The only thing I own is my time and the physical copy of the book in front of me. If Seven Seas ever wanted to sponsor me, that'd be fantastic, but I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. But yes. Hello, Truffle. Welcome. We just got started and we're just saying hello. I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting anything. Oh, our injustices to service workers count is currently 7 for the series. Oh, I get to make a wish. There we go. But yeah, speaking of breaking myself, a very funny thing happened today while I was at work. The kids I was working with were doing yoga to warm up, and I was like, okay, I can do this with them. And you know that stretch where you like catch your leg and hold it like kind of behind yourself, so like you bend at the knee. But I ended up missing catching it and ended up kicking my hand, so my middle finger is a little tender right now, so I probably just jammed it. But yeah. So you finished Joyful Reunion 1 and I'm not okay. Last illustration hurt my heart. Yeah, the stretch is like I used to be able to do that stretch no problem, and the right side was fine. The left side not so much. But yeah. So delicate flower me. But whatever. I'll manage. This feels sideways. That's better. I just am looking at the gobble in the background and I was like, that's more tilted than I want it to be. But yeah. I have some exciting news too. Oh no. I'm glad you got the fish smell out of your apartment, Truffle. I mean, fish smell it permeates so much. So I'm glad you were able to get that out. Okay, so excited to say that the lovely artist that did those sketches for me before from the convention I had some commissions in the back burner that they weren't able to get to at the con, but they finally managed to send them to me, so I'm going to show you guys now. So, do you want the more people or doubles? Your neighbors cook the fish. Okay. So do we want more people or less people first? Doubles. Okay. So this is the first picture we have. And she doesn't actually know Modao Zushi. So I got to explain it to her and everything. So this is our Yiling patriarch with little Wen Yun. But she did a fantastic job. She said she had a lot of fun researching Modao Zushi while she was doing this. But yeah, so that's the first one. And then the second one was I wanted Wen Ning and the juniors. So I think she did kind of a little bit of a Halloween theme because you've got him being a ghost right now. But I love that she drew Wen Ning smiling. Which I know isn't like canon because he can't anymore, but like it's so cute. Which I know isn't like canon because he can't anymore, but like it's so cute. He's doing like the strongman pose. But yeah. What could have been? Like, in the perfect world, what could have been? But yeah. So the artist is Hugs Biscus. Definitely check her out. She has an Instagram and she goes to conventions around. I thought that he wasn't able to smile because of the rictus. Can he smile? I could be wrong. I thought he wasn't able to. Maybe just too much awful stuff happened where he didn't really have like any reason to smile. I might have gotten the lore wrong on that one. I mean, I love it still because like how could you not? But yeah, anyway, Hugs Biscus. Like hibiscus, but Hugs X Biscus. I thought like with the rigor mortis. But I don't know. I'm kind of curious now. I'm gonna do a quick Google search, see if someone can Wen Ning smile. Yes, when Ning can smile, though his facial muscles were initially stiff after his death. He learned to smile again over time, often because of happiness he felt seeing his loved ones. He smiles in the series when he's happy to see Wei Wuxian and Lan Shizui, and these smiles are often described as a significant and heartwarming part of his character. But there was initial difficulty after becoming a fierce corpse because his facial muscles were too stiff for him to smile at first. Nice. Okay. No, I know there's an element of magic to everything or all that, but like I love that I'm around people who do the weirdest internet searches. Well, because I want to know. It's interesting. Makes things fun. I mean, it keeps my people checking my internet searches entertained, if nothing else. Okay. I guess we could go ahead and just get started, unless anyone has had anything happen other than the fish over the past 2 days. I haven't really. Like, just not feeling well and then feeling much better. So. In Chinese movies, most of the walking corpses hop. Ooh, it's a fun little tidbit, Momar's Rover. It's not that is not the weirdest internet searches. It is not the weirdest internet searches that I have seen or done. Oh, that doesn't even get close. Saw turkeys digging up someone's lawn. I mean, maybe they have grubs, because I know when we had grubs years ago, the birds absolutely destroyed our lawn. So apparently it's like candy to them. But they could just be being a menace. I also think it's cool that magic is kind of grounded in reality a little bit. And I think we've all done some weird ones. Again, keeping life interesting. I'm just now noticing some of my leaves have fallen in the background, and I will have to fix that later. Womp womp. Oh well. Might have been after acorns or grass seed. Yeah, high possibility. Okay. When are we starting? I think we actually... Is this the chapter where we only have 2? Because they're really long. No. Next time, we're going to have just 2 chapters we read, because they're both like mega chapters. But this time we have 4. Or 3. However many we have. Anyway. I will start our little timestamp for chapter 36. 12:20. Okay. So, last time we had Shen Qiao being kind of like recovering, so he's drinking some medicine, and it was talking about his one shortcoming being he loved sweet things and hated bitter ones. So very Chuan encoded right there. So whenever he got sick, he would hide and refuse to take his medicine. When he heard that internal cultivation could make one impervious to heat and cold, he put his all into his training. I kind of love that was one of his main driving points, is he was like, I hate taking medicine, so I'm going to make sure I can't get a cold. Not, oh, I want to be a lofty immortal. Instead, it's getting sick sucks. But everyone else thought he was extra hardworking. Well, in truth, he was just trying to escape the bitter medicine. But here at Yan Wushi's residence, no matter how many bowls of medicine were brought to him, he drank them all without objecting. His little habits betrayed him, though. Every time before he raised the bowl, his brows would furrow a little, and when he put the bowl down, the corners of his mouth would twitch. Yan Wushi saw all of this. When Shen Qiao finished the medicine, he picked up a candied preserve from the table and shoved it into Shen Qiao's mouth. Ah, Qiao, if you dislike bitter things, he said in a honeyed tone, I'll ask them to put some barley sugar in your medicine in the future. Now smile for me. Don't frown so much. Shen Qiao, lost for words, was utterly exhausted in both body and mind. It reminds me of when I trained my posture in middle school because I was scared of x-rays. Valid reason, honestly. All right, chapter 36, Meeting the Emperor. Ru couldn't resist smiling knowingly at the sight of Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao being so intimate with one another. She'd been with Shen Qiao for many days and admired his character and conduct greatly, so she hoped that the master would treat him well. That's Of course, she didn't understand how difficult it was for Shen Qiao as he choked on that piece of candied fruit. His stomach roiled, and he longed to spit it out and return it to Yan Wushi. But that would be out of character for Shen Qiao, so in the end, he was forced to swallow it. It seemed like today's medicine tasted more bitter than ever. Even the candied fruit was no help. I mean, I enjoy the occasional dark chocolate, but I think part of that was like a learned preference. But other than that, I am very sensitive to bitter things. So some people, yeah. I guess teas can be bitter, yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of bitter red wine, but I do enjoy vinegar. No, you didn't really miss much, Peacock Pages. We literally just started the new chapter. The thing you did miss, is this. I managed to get some prints back that I commissioned. So, by the same artist that did the other ones. So, this was the only thing you missed. But yeah. Yan Wushi smiled as he watched, supporting his chin on one hand. Seeing that Shen Qiao was about to lose his temper, he slowly said, I went to the palace to meet Emperor Shou today. He asked me to tell you that he wants to meet with you. Shen Qiao jolted, his attention successfully diverted. Meet with me? Tomorrow morning, I'll take you to the palace. He'll meet with you after morning court at around 7. I'm nothing more than a countryside commoner now. Does Sect Leader Yan know why the Emperor wishes to meet with me? Take a guess. With Yan Wushi's malicious personality, there was no way he'd answer so easily. So Shen Qiao paused to ponder the issue. I agree. Taste is one thing that is truly undeniably subjective. I attended the birthday celebration at the Su residence just today. The Emperor can't possibly know that I fought with Duan Wenyang already, so it can't be about that. Then it must be because of Xuandu Mountain. Because Ui was invited by the Gok Turks for a lecture. Northern Shou and the Khaganate are allied for the moment, but deep down they're wary of each other and have never trusted one another. So the Emperor wishes for me to do something? How clever of you. Yan Wushi clapped his hands. See, I didn't say a word, and you still guessed most of it yourself. Shen Qiao frowned. Then what does the Emperor want of me? You'll know when you go tomorrow. There's something else I want you to do. Shen Qiao shook his head. I can't help with anything cruel or immoral. What are you thinking? Yan Wushi laughed softly. His fingers gently brushed over the side of Shen Qiao's face before landing on Shen Qiao's lips. He couldn't avoid it in time. Yan Wushi even rubbed at his mouth so that his lips blushed, blood-tinted. Finally, Yan Wushi said, Xuandu Mountain prospered during the Qin Han dynasties. I heard that the first sect leader of Xuandu Mountain was a wandering Daoist priest who specialized at telling someone's fortune by the sound of their voice. Even Shu Fu was once his disciple. Shu Fu later conferred the title of Marquise of Shi at Ci by Emperor Gao of Han, was an alchemist for the first emperor of Qin Shi Huang, famous for exploring the eastern seas for the elixir of life on Qin Shi Huang's request. All right, this is the point where I remind everybody that I am not fluent and am doing my best. So please be kind. Finally, no. Shen Qiao laughed. People love to tell tall tales. I don't know whether the founder of Xuandu Mountain had anything to do with the Marquise of Xi, but fortune-telling through facial features is an essential skill for Daoists. Doing it by the sound of a voice does seem even more incredible, but in truth, it's nothing special. Since the body produces the voice, you can hear whether someone's in good health or bad. For example, if there's excessive fire in someone's lungs, their voice will be hoarse and quiet, akin to a hand bellows. To a hand bellows? Oh, okay. Yeah. As long as you have some knowledge of martial arts and medicine, it's not hard to identify some issues. So, the excessive fire in someone's lungs reflects the Taoist belief that the balance of the five phases is important to one's health. As soon as Shen Qiao said all this, Yan Wushi knew that he must have studied it extensively at some point. I want you to listen to Yuan Yang's voice, he said. Shen Qiao frowned. The Shou Palace does not lack for master physicians. The 4 methods of diagnosis, sight, hearing, questioning, and pulse checking, are fundamental to the medical discipline. The Emperor of Shou really is ill. How could none of these doctors have detected it? My skills are only mediocre. I fear I won't be able to help. In his early years, Yuan Yang saw his own brother die by poisoning when their cousin bribed his physician. From then on, he refused to consult any doctors and isn't willing to let them treat him for illness. However, since he's been managing state affairs day and night for many years, disease took root in him long ago. My own judgment tells me that it's likely the damage is already done, but I still need you to give him a listen. Shen Qiao thought for a while, then nodded slightly. Very well. A smile crept across Yan Wushi's face. My Qiao is the best. Shen Qiao's face was blank. I have a present for you, said Yan Wushi. The funny Mars rover. It's very Wei Wuxian coded that you made several meals that were so spicy your family politely banned you from cooking family dinner. He clapped his hands, calling in a maid from outside. Does master need something? Bring me the sword case that I keep in the study, he told her. The maid assented, then quickly returned with the sword case and presented it to him with both hands. Yan Wushi took it and caressed it a bit before placing it in Shen Qiao's arms with a small smile. At first, Shen Qiao was a little confused. He groped around and unlatched the lock on top of the sword case. When his fingers brushed the sword inside, joy bubbled up inside him. Shan He Tong Bei? Do you like it? Yan Wushi smiled brightly. Thank you, sect leader Yan, for taking such good care of it. When Shen Qiao had awakened after his fall from the cliff, Shan He Tong Bei hadn't been with him. At that time, his memories were fragmented, leaving him unable to remember the sword at all. Later, when he did recall it, he'd asked Yan Wushi about it. But he received no answer, and so he'd never asked again. After all, the sword might not even be with Yan Wushi. It could have gone missing with his fall. And even if it were with Yan Wushi, Shen Qiao would have been far too ashamed to wield it, given how weak he was back then. I tend to cook 3 to 4 times a week, or at the very least assist with dinner, even on the other nights. But yeah, he got his sword back. But how could he be unhappy about recovering what he'd lost? His shizun had given him the sword as a gift when Shen Qiao was 7, and it hadn't left his side for a moment since. The sword made the man. To Shen Qiao, it had long ago ceased to be a mere sword. He held Shan He Tong Bei in both hands and stroked the surface with his palms again and again. His sheer happiness was so palatable that a shining radiance seemed to suffuse his face, transforming him into a figure carved from pure white jade. Now, if there's a picture of that, that'd be fantastic. But everyone loved beautiful people, and Yan Wushi was no exception. Though he wasn't the type to soften before a pretty face, that didn't stop him from delighting in the sight of one, and he immediately began to tease. Come, another smile. Shen Qiao did not reply. He withdrew his smile, even pressing his lips tightly together. When Yan Wushi saw this, he could only regretfully stop himself and say, Who's that severe expression for, Ah Qiao? I've returned your sword to its rightful owner untouched. How will you thank me for it? I feel that, Truffle. By now, Shen Qiao had learned to be sly as well. Didn't sect leader Yan return Shan He Tong Bei to me because I agreed to enter the palace with him and meet Emperor of Shou? Probed again. Yan Wushi laughed. All right, he said, letting it go. Whatever you say. Shen Qiao paid no heed to his lunacy. Instead, he said, As you said, it will be terribly difficult to restore my damaged foundations to their original condition, even with the Shu Yang strategy volumes. However, I will not forsake Taoism to pursue the demonic path. You wish to raise me up as an opponent, but I fear you'll need to wait another 8 to 10 years, and even then you may not see it happen. If sect leader Yan will permit me, I'd like to leave Shou after my meeting with the Emperor. Yan Wushi was unconcerned. And where could you go after leaving Shou? Without my protection, and in your condition, a series of fights will carve you to pieces. There may be countless ways to cultivate, said Shen Qiao, but ultimately they can be reduced down to 2. To detach from the world or to immerse yourself in it. Since I've chosen the latter, I must experience the many trials and tribulations that arise from worldly desires in order to pursue my path. Oh, hello, Esper Lady. Welcome. I totally get that. Have fun at Kickter's member stream and tell them I say hello, please. I hope you're doing well tonight. I may lack strength now, but I can still come up with methods to protect myself. Thank you very much. If I keep relying on sect leader Yan for protection, how is that any different from remaining on Xuandu Mountain? How very like Shen Qiao to say such a thing. Even when he'd fallen into the mire, where he was smeared with dust and grime and was at anyone's mercy, still he struggled back to his feet and walked onward, step by step. His comrade's betrayal, his kindness being repaid with enmity, it was as if he'd taken none of it to heart. It truly made someone long to crush him beneath their heel one more time, just to see how much more he could take before he collapsed completely. Now, would that be masochism or sadism? Because, I'm not actually completely sure where that's leading. Would that be sadism? Because masochism, you want to be the one being crushed or degraded. So he's a sadist. Yeah, he's a sadist. I think. Wouldn't that face look even better, stained in tears and begging miserably? Sadist. There you go. That proved it. Yep. Yan Wushi laughed. Of course, my venerable self won't stop you if you wish to leave, but I do advise you to delay a little. Recently, Shou and Chen have decided to form an alliance, so Lin Chuan Academy escorted Chen's envoy here. And now the Emperor of Shou also wishes to reply to the alliance treaty, so he'll be sending his own envoy to Chen in return. He's afraid Qi will attempt to obstruct these plans, so he's asked Huan Yue sect to be escorts on the journey. Originally, this task was assigned to Bian Yan Mei, but I intend to go myself because I want to meet Ru Yan Ki Huai, the leader of the Confucian sects. One of the top 3 martial artists in the world is going to fight my venerable self. Don't you want to see it with your own eyes? No matter how detached Shen Qiao was, he couldn't resist such a temptation. His expression flickered. Has sect leader Yan already sent the challenge letter to Academy Master Ru Yan? I could see that, Truffle. Hard to tell. I think he'd actually get a weird kick out of Shen Qiao trying to dominate him. I could see that, partially because he's like, give in to your darkness, and he'd be like, oh, you're finally listening to me. But, though if anyone else tried it, he'd kick their butt on principle. Oh, he'd kick their butt on principle for sneezing too close to him. Like, it doesn't take much. Why would I need a challenge letter, Yan Wushi said with a mocking smile. Ah, Qiao, just because you're not the aggressive type, do you think everyone else is the same? That kind of basically just proved your point right there, Truffle. If Ruyan Kihuai knows I'll be going south of the Yangtze, will he not exhaust every means in order to meet me? If he can defeat me, he'll raise his reputation by a fair amount, and if I lose, it'll damage Huan Yue Sec's reputation, striking a blow to our influence in Northern Shou. If Huan Yue Sect were gone, it would mean opportunity for many, both those looking to seize wealth and those who want me out of the way so they can gain Yuan Yang's trust. Such an excellent deal with manifold returns. Who knows how many would jump at the chance? Yeah, I'm not, like, he's not a by-the-book sadist, but, like, he has lots of sadist tendencies. I'll put it that way. Shen Qiao thought about it and agreed. Although he didn't approve of Yan Wushi's way and actions, he greatly admired his martial arts achievements. Excited, he quickly replied, a duel between the 2 of the greatest masters in the world. How incredible that would be. Anyone in the Jianghu would yearn for a glimpse. If the news spreads, then even if the duel takes place in the deep mountains or remote forests, it would still be packed to the seams with people jostling for a view. And yet, Yan Wushi just had to say, just like when you lost to Kunyi on Bamboo Peak. The very moment you disgraced yourself, the entire world knew. And yet he's continuing to show how much of an asshole he is. Sadist tendencies is the nicest description of asshole I've ever heard. Yeah. This man really was exceptionally scathing. Shen Qiao immediately shut his mouth and stopped talking. Yan Wushi burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha! But it's not a bad idea at all. Confucians love to lecture people with their lengthy speeches, and Ruyan Kihuai's mouthiness has always annoyed me terribly. If I defeat him in front of everyone, then force him in public to swear to shut up, that'll probably be a fate worse than death for him. Thank you, Momar's Rover. He definitely seems like he deserves the cheesy evil villain laugh. Early the next morning, Shen Qiao entered the palace with Yan Wushi. The Emperor of Shou had taken Shen Qiao's sight into consideration. He had even sent a carriage. This allowed them to enter the palace and drive all the way to Qian'an Hall without interruptions, foregoing the journey from the palace gates to the main hall. After the Han Dynasty fell, there had come the chaos of the Three Kingdoms period, and it hadn't taken long after the Jin Dynasty managed to unify the land for the flames of war to spark again. The Jin were forced to move their capital and restrict their reign to the southeast. Then it was another 100+ years of chaos with the 16 Kingdoms period, all without a unified ruling dynasty. Rulers lacked the manpower and wealth to build large-scale palaces because none of them knew when their country might be overthrown. Any king, no matter how negligible his accomplishments, invested his resources to war first and foremost in order to seize more land and wealth. The various rulers of Northern Shou had done exactly this, so the Palace of Northern Shou wasn't particularly large. Its scale was nowhere near the likes of Wei Yang Palace or Changli Palace during the Han Dynasty. So the Wei Yang Palace is the Endless Palace and the Palace of Lasting Joy were built by Emperor Gao Zhu of Han. Their historic sites can still be visited today. The martial arts movie with the Jingxi is called Shadow Boxing. All right. The Shadow Boxing. The Shadow Boxing. I'm just curious. Has anyone actually watched the movie I recommended, Going by the Book, since then? Like, it's totally cool if nobody has, but I'm just out of curiosity. As the current emperor of Shou, Yuan Yang had a reputation as a somewhat polarizing figure. He led a humble lifestyle and cared for his people, but at the same time, he was paranoid and harsh on his ministers. When he came into power, he prohibited both Buddhism and Taoism, and later he even distanced himself from Confucianism. Instead, he began to support legalism, which had been in gradual decline since the rule of Han's Emperor Wu. Okay. No, it's all good. As a reminder, though, the only place I've found to watch it without, like, paying for it, and even then I don't think it's there, is through the Roku movies. Ang Lee's The Wedding Banquet. No, but I'll add it to my list. The Wedding Banquet. I actually have time this weekend. I might try to watch one of those. So legalism had been in gradual decline since the rule of Han's Emperor Wu. He also relied on Huan Yue sect to shore up his influence and impose his authority, which led many to denounce him. The opinions on Yuan Yang that Shen Qiao had heard since leaving Xuandu Mountain ranged widely from praise to criticism. It did seem, however, that there was more criticism than praise. And so Shen Qiao hesitated when Yuan Yang asked him a question after his polite summons. "I heard that you, sir, have spent this time wandering among the common folk, and have been subject to much suffering," said the emperor. "So you must have also witnessed many of their hardships as well. What are their opinions of me?" Bowen Yang is absolutely adorable. You should really do more movies. I don't know them, but I'm going to agree with you on principle, Truffle. Still, Shen Qiao said truthfully, "There is veneration, but also reproach." Yuan Yang laughed. "For what do they venerate, and for what do they reproach?" "Those who venerate praise your Majesty's humble lifestyle, how you refuse luxury and root out political corruption. Those who reproach criticize your Majesty for prosecuting Buddhism and Taoism, your harsh treatment of others, and your singular focus on militarism. Militarism. There we go. I was like, that's not right. You were once the leader of Xuandu Mountain," said Yuan Yang. "As I've prohibited Buddhism and Taoism, I'm your enemy as well." Do you not hate me? His questions came one after another, as if the emperor was trying to force something out of him. Yan Wushi watched coldly from the sidelines. He had no intention of helping Shen Qiao. May this one ask why your majesty prohibits Buddhism and Taoism? Shen Qiao asked. When the When the common people blindly practice Buddhism and Taoism, they donate away their savings and stop producing, hoping that they'll be granted whatever they wish in the next life. The Buddhist and Taoist temples gather great hoards of gold and land while bringing farmers into their folds. Like so, they evade taxes and keep the fields cropped for themselves. If this keeps on, the court will end up empty-handed while the Buddhist and Taoist organizations grow even stronger. They'll no longer fear the law, and eventually they will become hotbeds of unrest. It was like this 60 years ago when Fa Qing claimed he was a new Buddha and led the people to revolt. So Fa Qing, in 515 CE, a monk named Fa Qing led 50,000 men in a revolt, claiming that killing would allow them to reach higher states of enlightenment. Oof. Since ancient times, the king held higher authority than any religion. And so, whenever a religion became large enough to threaten a regime, the sovereign would begin ordering prosecutions and bans. But this time in particular, Taoism had been collateral damage. To prevent future trouble, Yuan Yang had chosen to ban both schools of thought at once. As for Confucianism, Yuan Yang's original decree had deemed Confucianism the best of the three. But then Yan Wushi politely declined the emperor's personal invitation to lecture at Chang'an, and furious, Yuan Yang had then banned Confucianism as well, and with this offended all three schools. All good, Truffle. That was a terrible political decision by Yan Wushi. Like, you just... Ay. Once he was finished, Yuan Yang looked at Shen Qiao. As a practitioner of Taoism, you must think what I did is wrong, he said. The Tao is like water. Water benefits all living things without demanding anything in return, replied Shen Qiao. The law of Tao is the law of nature, and practitioners should flow with the current while remaining aloof. To conform oneself to the natural order, to human sensibilities, that is the Tao. Within his words was an implication that the Taoists who reaped benefits at the cost of others were ultimately no more than degenerates. They might be associated with the school of thought, but they could not represent Taoism themselves. Witnessing Shen Qiao's prompt answer and clear stance, Yuan Yang's face relaxed. Shen Qiao was different from all the Taoists who'd tried everything to put in a good word for their banned discipline. I've long heard of Xuandu Mountain, but only today did I have the good fortune to meet you, said Yuan Yang with a delighted smile. Truly, your reputation is well earned. Every passing day, I've had to listen to all these people defending Buddhism and Taoism. I should really let them listen to your words just now. I've never crushed true Taoism, just those who bluff and deceive in the name of immortals. They benefit neither the country nor the people. It's better to root them out and be done with it. His voice brimmed with murderous intent. Now that made it hard for Shen Qiao to follow up. Though he wasn't the kind who amassed land in gold, he was still a Taoist, so he couldn't show unabashed support for Yuan Yang's prosecution of Taoism. Yuan Yang had never expected to hear any flattering words from him either. As he looked at Shen Qiao, who was seated below him and to the left, his tone gentle. With this first meeting, I already feel as if we are old friends, he said. You conduct yourself admirably, and I wish to help you re-establish Taoism, to rebuild the Taoist sects. What do you think? This humble Taoist doesn't understand what your majesty means, said Shen Qiao. May he ask for further clarification? Yuan Yang had always been a decisive and straightforward person, and he disliked beating around the bush. I've heard from Junior Preceptor Yan that you were only defeated on Bamboo Peak due to a treacherous plot. If that's the case, then Xuandu's Violet Palace does not have the right to depose you of the position of sect leader. Even if it's no place for you there, other places exist. Since you can no longer stay on Xuandu Mountain, why not re-establish Xuandu Mountain here in Chang'an? With your incredible talents, you will shine brightly wherever you are. At last, astonishment came over Shen Qiao's face. Yuan Yang had been very straightforward. He meant for Shen Qiao to set up a sect in Chang'an, another Xuandu's Violet Palace. Since Qi Fenggui had appointed him sect leader in the first place, it would all be right and proper, and no one could call him a fake. But if this happened, there would be two Xuandu's Violet Palaces, and the new sect leader Shen Qiao established would be in opposition with the original Xuandu Mountain, far across the land. Unspoken was the implication that Yuan Yang would use the power of the imperial court to support Shen Qiao, but of course this help wouldn't come for free. Shen Qiao's newly formed sect would be weak to begin with, which would force him to rely on the court for support. Therefore, what Yuan Yang truly wanted was to use Shen Qiao to cede his own influence and voice amongst the Daoist sects. Of course, Shen Qiao would benefit from the arrangement too. If he agreed, he would be leader to a sect just like any other, and Yan Wushi would no longer be able to treat him like a plaything. He looked at Yan Wushi, who was kneeling, his posture exuding the languid nonchalance that could only belong to the Huan Yue sect leader. His expression was the same, relaxed and careless. I agree. Free purses always come with strings attached. The shadow of a smile hung on his lips, as if Yuan Yang's words posed no threat to him at all. Instead, he seemed to be greatly interested in what Shen Qiao would say in reply. Oh, you wanted to see smug? Somebody is definitely smug. And then there's Shen Qiao's face. Shen Qiao didn't spend much time thinking it over. This one is deeply thankful to your majesty, he said directly to Yuan Yang. But he doesn't have the moral qualifications, so he fears he must disappoint your majesty. He does look so serious. Yuan Yang was rather surprised and unhappy with this answer. In his eyes, even though his intent to consolidate power was apparent, his suggestion would still grant Shen Qiao countless benefits with no drawbacks. Meanwhile, Yan Wushi snorted. I already told your majesty that Qiao is an upright gentleman who'd only break but not bend, that he wouldn't accept your majesty's suggestion. But your majesty didn't believe me and wanted to make a bet with me. Now that your majesty has lost, what prize have I won? At this interruption, Yuan Yang grudgingly said, I don't understand. You've already fallen so far. Do you have no desire at all to rise again? Are you content to surrender Xuandu Mountain? To let the world misunderstand you, believe you useless? Shen Qiao smiled, but didn't speak. No matter how unhappy Yuan Yang was with this rejection, it wasn't like he could arrest Shen Qiao for it. I mean, you could, but yeah. I mean, you banned Confucianism over the dude not coming to give a speech. Like, you totally could put him in jail, but I'm glad you didn't. I think he looks a little smug almost. Like, heh, deal with it yourself. But I could see bored. Very well, the Emperor said, resigned. This gentleman can take some time to think it over. If you change your mind, you can come and tell me any time. Then he smiled at Yan Wushi. No treasures in the world are out of reach for the junior preceptor. There's only one precious item in this palace, the Shu Yang strategy scroll. You've already read it. What else could you have in your sights? Why not let me save some face? Allow me to entertain the two of you for lunch today. Told you so. Definitely a told you so. With his forceful personality, it was rare to see him speaking to someone so casually. But Yuan Yang felt a kinship with Yan Wushi, who was a powerful man like him. The Emperor treated Yan Wushi with comparatively more respect than his average court ministers. Before leaving, Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao took their lunch inside the palace. The moment they left the palace gates and entered the junior preceptor's carriage, Yan Wushi asked, So? Shen Qiao frowned. Judging from his voice, I fear fire has been rampant in his liver for a while. Prolonged inflammation invites ruin. He may not have long to live. All right. Just a second. Okay. Chapter 37. I'm going to blow my nose real quick. I'm just going to do 52. All right. Chapter 37. Probing. Yan Wushi mulled it over in silence. I'm no expert, nor am I a physician, said Shen Qiao, so I might not have heard very clearly. You should still personally petition His Majesty to call in a physician. That would be best. In truth, Yuan Yang might not be suffering from a deadly disease, but since he'd seized power back from his cousin, Yuan Hu, he'd worked around the clock and kept his guard up at all times. Not a day went by that he didn't throw himself into government affairs. He'd even given away the position of Empress in order to win over the Gok Turks, and to demonstrate his sincerity, he had to treat her with loving affection. To an emperor, especially a powerful emperor like Yuan Yang, this was a humiliation. He'd started with excellent health, so there had been no signs of deterioration during the early years. But as time went on, even a body of steel couldn't take such wear and tear. The moment the four fundamentals of his health collapsed, his body would crumble too. So the four fundamentals are nutrition, bodily defenses, including the immune system, qi, and blood. So they were believed to form the cornerstone of a person's health. Which, I mean, covers a lot if you're thinking about how long ago and what they knew of the body. Like, that's covers a lot of bases, honestly. But before that happened, he might show no clear symptoms at all. Even if an imperial physician were called, at most they'd cite things like fatigue and vitality depletion. Tell him to take rest and take care of his health for a while. The emperor would never listen. Yan Wushi said nothing on the topic. Why didn't you agree to Yuan Yang's suggestion? He asked Shen Qiao instead. In your current situation, it would only benefit you. I'm curious about something as well, said Shen Qiao. If I agreed to his proposal and the new Daoist sect gained the court's full support, that would undoubtedly affect Huan Yu's sect's authority in Shou. Why does sect leader Yan remain unconcerned? Because regardless of how many new sects the court establishes, they cannot affect Huan Yue's sect's standing, said Yan Wushi. Huan Yue's sect can help Yuan Yang with matters in ways no other sect can. Even if they could, they'd think such things beneath them. So Yuan Yang can only rely on Huan Yue's sect. He's 32 this year, only just past his prime. Even if he lives for 10 more years, I'll be able to accomplish what I want. Shen Qiao canted his head, a little doubtful. To unify the 3 demonic sects? Do you know how large the Han Dynasty's empire was? Asked Yan Wushi. If I recall correctly, at its peak it encompassed Weimen, Joshan, Hosyan. Weimen, Hosyan to the east and Van Chuan to the south, engulfed the Pamir Mountains in the west and stretched to the Yinshan Mountains in the north. Okay, so the first one, Weiman Joseon, is an ancient Korean dynasty, and the Van Xuan is an ancient Vietnamese dynasty. Pamir Mountains is a mountain range located primarily in Tajikistan. The name Pamir Mountains didn't exist in the time of Thousand Autumns, but the translation uses this term for simplicity's sake. And stretch the Yinshan Mountains in the north. Okay. And how large was the empire after Sima Shao established the Jin dynasty? Shen Qiao knit his brows. By the time the 3 kingdoms had been unified under the Jin, a portion of their territories had already been lost in the chaos of the period. For example, ever since the Jin dynasty, the eastern peninsular kingdoms of Goguryeo, Baikaji, and Silla ceased to be part of the Central Plains. At the same time, the Xianbei and Qiang people gradually rose in power to the west of the Yellow River. So those first 2 were kingdoms that made up ancient Korea. Goguryeo itself became the namesake for Korea. Goguryeo. That's the best I got. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong, which I probably am. The Jin dynasty unified the Central Plains, but its might and wealth paled in comparison to the previous dynasties. And not long after came the War of the 8 Princes. Yan Wushi continued. From then on, the Central Plains were splintered. First was the uprising of the 5 barbarians, then the 16 Kingdoms period, as the states supplanted each other, one after the other. The turmoil continues today. It's been 259 years. Shen Qiao sighed. In those 259 years, In those 259 years, foreign tribes have invaded time and again. Anyone who amasses a modicum of military power jumps to establish their own nation and declare themselves king, all while they're completely unable to defend it. And so wars arise again and again, breeding chaos, leaving refugees everywhere and corpses scattered throughout the land. Yan Wushi was smiling brightly. Indeed, it's been over 250 years, and no one's been able to unify the land. The Lin Chuan Academy declares themselves a legitimate representative of Confucianism, but they remain Han-centric. They observe strict separation between the Han and foreign ethnicities and believe that only the Chen dynasty was chosen by heaven. Meanwhile, Buddhism and Taoism hold grudges against Yuan Yang for banning them and driving them out of show. They imagine that a despot like him could never achieve unification. Yan Wushi went on asking, how many people in the world, whether openly or in secret, seek to trip him up, crave to see misfortune befall him? The moment it happens, misfortune will naturally befall Northern Shou as well, but I want the exact opposite, to support the unpopular emperor in uniting the land. Wouldn't it be awfully interesting if the demonic discipline can do what the self-proclaimed legitimate three schools can't? Oh, have a good night, Esper Lady. Enjoy the rest of the stream later, and enjoy the Kichter stream. The more others said that something couldn't be done, the more he wanted to try. When everyone claimed that Yuan Yang couldn't be an enlightened ruler because he was ruthless and tyrannical, it only made Yan Wushi support the emperor's ambitions more. He wanted to see them eat crow, all the naysayers and those who would stand in his way. His unpredictable character, the way he did as he pleased, left many grinding their teeth in helplessness. If they wanted to strike down Yuan Yang, first they had to get past Yan Wushi, and he towered over them as unconquerable as a mountain, formidable enough to crush their spirits. So, anyone who doesn't know what eat crow is basically like eat your words. Like, I heard that the crown prince is still young, said Shen Qiao. Why doesn't sect leader Yan assist the crown prince in the meantime and teach him? I see why Yan Wushi likes Yuan Yang. Yeah. Why doesn't sect leader Yan assist the crown prince? Nope. Gotta close that one. Sorry. If the Lord of Shou does indeed pass away, wouldn't all your efforts have been for naught? Yan Wushi played with a tassel hanging by the door. And what if the crown prince is completely worthless and unteachable? Should I just grin and bear it? Help a dimwit idiot onto the throne, then submit myself to him? The implications were really quite shocking. Shen Qiao was momentarily taken aback. You wish to usurp the throne? And Wushi sputtered out a laugh. What are you thinking? I have no interest in becoming emperor. Do you think Yuan Yang lives a happy life? Every day he has to meet with people he dislikes, rattle off a bunch of empty formalities, and he's even forced to marry a woman he dislikes to use her as a prop. He spends sleepless nights poring over paperwork from his officials, rises earlier than the roosters, and rests later than the dogs. His only day-to-day satisfaction is the hollow glory of owning boundless land. Don't you feel sorry for him? If I became emperor, I fear that within 3 years I'd have drained the country dry. But given all that, aren't I more carefree and at ease as I am? Shen Qiao shook his head. Then I understand even less. With your intelligence, you can definitely guess. Try. If you're right, I'll even give you a prize. He even drew out his final words, and it suddenly reminded Shen Qiao of Bai Rong's tone of affected cuteness. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch, and he wondered if this was some distinctive habit of the demonic sex. Teasing people? Yes. Yes, it is. The man was terribly obnoxious, and it was often impossible to read his intentions through his words or actions. If you weren't careful, he might end up jerking you around. But Shen Qiao was forced to admit that Yan Wushi, compared to the average martial artist, possessed exceptionally keen insight into the state of the world. Discussing these things with him benefited Shen Qiao greatly as well. Yuan Yang relied heavily on Xuandu sect, but his successor might not do the same. Even today, the Buddhist discipline was snubbed because of the old regent Yan Yuan Hu's issues, so they'd jump at the chance to curry favor with the new emperor. Yan Wushi didn't want to usurp the throne. He also regarded the current crown prince with contempt. The Buddhist discipline would definitely take advantage of the opening by cozying up to the crown prince. Then sect leader Yan wishes to support a different enlightened ruler? Yan Wushi was all smiles. My Qiao is so clever. Shen Qiao's face grew dark. Who's your Qiao? Yan Wushi pretended he saw nothing and reached over to pinch Shen Qiao's cheek. Not bad. Yuan Xian, the Prince Qi, disdains both Buddhism and Taoism. He's also brave and skillful in warfare, so he has great support from the military. He'll definitely be able to live up to Yuan Yang's ambitions. He leaned in and whispered in Shen Qiao's ear. That's a secret. I've never told anyone before, so you have to keep mum about it, too. Shen Qiao didn't answer. Could he pretend he'd heard nothing? It was the 4th of April and a fine sunny day. The carriage wheels rumbled along outside, rolling ever onward, but the compartment inside was well dampened, which limited the jostling. A warm fragrance wafted through the raised curtains, sweet and cloying. From that, it was easy to surmise that the occupants inside were likely a woman. Yuzi had been on the road for almost half a month, but as they approached the border with Chen, she felt none of the fatigue expected from a long and arduous journey. Instead, her spirits rose, for she was originally from Jiangnan and had grown up in Jiankhan. Now that she was returning to her hometown, joy bubbled up irrepressibly within her. She couldn't resist peeking outside again and again, her shining eyes unblinking. The maid called to her several times before she turned back. Madame's soul is fit to fly away, teased the maid. It's been 10 years since I was last in Jiangnan. Yuzi couldn't resist glancing out once more. I was still young when I left. I didn't find it particularly pretty back then. But seeing it again today, I've realized that all I could think about is Jiangnan. The north is wonderful, but it isn't my hometown after all. The master was ordered to travel to Chen and deliver a letter to the emperor. Such an important duty, yet he didn't forget to bring the madam. That shows his deep love for you. Others might beg for such a blessing and never receive it. Yuzi's cheeks flushed a faint pink, and she stayed shyly quiet. She was the concubine of court counselor Yuan Qing and had been wed to him for 3 years. Yuan Qing adored her, and so everyone in the manor treated her as if she was his legal wife. He'd taken her along for his diplomatic mission to Chen, making his deep favor of her obvious. It was a time of turmoil, and robbers were rampant. Traveling merchants were often forced to seek the protection of the government or to hire a great number of bodyguards. When the merchants had seen an envoy of Shou headed south, they'd all scrambled to pay him money in hopes of traveling together. Among them were many important merchants with close ties to Northern Shou's royal family, so Yuan Qing couldn't put them off. He brought them all with him. And so the procession of carriages grew, but there was the advantage of strength in numbers. They were a formidable impression as they journeyed. And with the additional protection of skilled martial artists, no one dared be so reckless as to attack them. They had just crossed the border of Yuan province. There was still a long way to go before they arrived at the next provincial capital. When they finally reached a relay station, Yuan Qing ordered a half-hour rest for them to reorganize. The procession slowly rolled to a stop. Some entered the station, asking for hot water, while others stayed where they were, eating some rations and resting. The maid was young and thrilled by all the excitement. Yuzi couldn't leave the carriage freely, but the maid was under no such restriction. She bounded around outside before returning to Yuzi. Madam, she said, there's a carriage in our procession. It's located right behind Master's, but no one has left it ever, even though there are clearly people inside. It's so strange. Yuzi was unconcerned. Perhaps you missed them when they got out? The maid shook her head. No, other people told me about them, and they all think it's very strange. It seems that no one has seen anyone get out, nor do they know who's inside. Are they even going to the bathroom in there? How disgusting. Don't speak nonsense, chided Yuzi. The maid stuck out her tongue. The master should know who they are. Why not ask him, madam? You can ask then, said Yuzi. I'm certainly not asking. I overheard those merchants making bets, said the maid. They said the carriage is large and opulent, so maybe there is... Is what? It is the master's beloved inside, said the maid. Yuzi's expression fell a little. The maid quickly added, It's just nonsense from outsiders. This maid thinks that's absurd. Everyone knows that the madam is the master's true beloved. At the moment, Yuzi lived a life of luxury. She was heaped with boundless favors and doting, but she knew very well that everything she had was completely dependent on Yuan Qing's fondness for her. The moment that affection fled, a fate awaited her that might very well be worse than her own maid's. So she was incredibly sensitive to the ebb and flow of Yuan Qing's affections. When she heard that he might have found someone new, panic flooded her heart. If what the maid said was true, and the carriage really held another beauty whom she'd never heard of, then that spoke multitudes to how much Yuan Qing treasured the newcomer. In that case, Yuzi would be replaced very soon. Yuzi had stayed by Yuan Qing's side for a long time, minding her place. She never pried where she shouldn't, nor pressed for more when Yuan Qing was unwilling to tell her. This was one of the reasons he adored her, but today she was unable to contain herself. After an afternoon of feeling ill at ease, when evening fell and Yuan Qing came to her carriage, Yuzi spent a while gently and carefully attending to him before trying to probe. Master, this concubine is curious which sister of hers is inside the carriage behind yours. She must be stifled silly, sitting inside all day. Why not invite her over to this concubine's carriage for some conversation? It can help dispel her boredom. For a moment, Yuan Qing looked startled. Then he laughed. All right, don't probe for answers where you shouldn't. It won't do you any good. You need not worry about this matter. Staying peacefully inside your own carriage is all you have to do. There was only the carriage wall between them and the outside, where people were coming and going. No matter how amorous Yuan Qing was feeling, he couldn't just make love to her right there. So after satisfying himself with fondling her all over, he reluctantly returned to his own carriage. Once Yuan Qing left, the young maid peeked in with a smile. Does the madam feel better now? Yuzi glared at her, face flushed. I trust that the master must have consoled the madam already. Just who is the beauty in the other carriage? Yuzi shook her head. He didn't say, though I don't think it's a beauty. After all, I'm not the main wife. If the master truly has a new sweetheart, why hide it as if he's afraid to tell me? Though she didn't realize it herself, the end of her sentence was tinged in sour jealousy. But I saw a servant girl leaving the carriage, said the young maid. Yuzi was stunned. What? Worried that Yuzi didn't believe her, the maid continued. It's true. A maid was outside just now. She alighted with a water skin, so she's probably leaving to fetch water. She was so pretty. All the merchants were staring at her. They didn't even blink. Could there really be a woman in there? Asked Yuzi, anxious and doubtful. Why not give me something of yours, madam? I can use it as a pretext to talk to them and take a peek. I don't think that's a good idea, said Yuzi. If the master finds out, he'll be unhappy. I'll do it secretly, so the master doesn't find out, said the maid. The madam must know who she is. That way you can come up with a solution. Otherwise, you'll still be in the dark about her identity, even when she takes her place someday. Yuzi hesitated for a moment before plucking a jade hairpin from her head and handing it to the maid. Then be careful, and don't let the master find out. If you can't manage, it's fine. Please rest assured, madam. The topic of their private conversation was a common one inside the manor. That night, Yuan Qing didn't come back to Yuzi's carriage, and she and her maid were resting inside as usual. Though there was no inns to stay at along the way, the martial experts of Shou's imperial palace were escorting them, so Yuzi was at ease. The entire journey thus far had been peacefully uneventful. Other than being stuck inside the stuffy carriage, she had little to complain about. Yuzi had been asleep into the wee hours of the night when she felt a slight chill over her face. She opened her eyes in a daze, but before she could react, her mouth was covered. Just then, someone laughed quietly in her ear. How keen you are! However, you're quite lucky. I'm in a good mood tonight, so I won't kill you. That man was even willing to save the life of a horse. If he knew I killed you, he'd definitely despise me even more. This was the last thing Yuzi heard that night, for she lost consciousness quickly after. Hello, Byrong. Welcome to the party. The young maid even took the time to tuck her mistress in before exiting the carriage. Lifting her skirt, she ran towards Yuan Qing's location in a flutter. She was stopped outside the carriage and quickly called out, Master! Master! Yuan Qing hadn't quite fallen asleep yet. After a moment, the curtains lifted, revealing an impatient face. What is it? The young maid looked at the martial artist guarding the carriage, then whispered, somewhat embarrassed. The madam's time of the month is almost here, so she had a hard time sleeping soundly. She just had a nightmare and she's crying. Could the master please look in on her? There was a beauty traveling with him, yet he had to sleep alone with only his bedding for company. It was truly agonizing. So when Yuan Qing heard this, a flame blazed to life in his heart. I'll go and see. The men Yuan Yang sent with him moved to follow, and he quickly cleared his throat. I'm only going to my concubine's carriage to take a look. You need not come with me. Take a look, I'm sure. All the martial artists had keen eyes and ears. If anything started in the carriage, they'd hear everything with perfect clarity without even trying. Inevitably, it would be embarrassing for the one being overheard. The men were a bit displeased. They weren't courtyard guards who could be ordered about. Officially, they were martial artists under imperial employ, but in actuality, they were from Huan Yue's sect and only took orders from Yan Wushi and Yuan Yang. Normally, they'd accompany the emperor. Asking them to escort an envoy was already an insult to them. They had their own pride and halted their steps at Yuan Qing's words. When they saw him enter one of the carriage mere paces away, they gave it no further thought. Yuan Qing followed the young maid into the carriage. The moment the door shut behind him, he felt something was wrong. Yuzi, why didn't you light a lamp? He tried to turn around, but it was already too late. A bone-chilling cold pierced his back, a jade hairpin held by a delicate hand. It was simply too fast. In the span of a blink, the jade hairpin's point had torn through his clothes and stabbed half an inch into his flesh. Yuan Qing's mouth fell open and his face was seized with terror. By now, he knew he had fallen into a trap, and he cursed his own stupidity for stopping the martial artists from following. Even though they were only a few steps away, his attacker had enough time to gore straight through to his heart. He could already see hell beckoning to him. But as the next moment rolled by, that jade hairpin advanced no farther. Instead, it was withdrawn, yanked out of his body. Yuan Qing collapsed forward, landing right on top of the unconscious Yuzi. There was a beauty in his arms, but he wasn't in the mood at all. He screamed for help and whipped his head back. The young maid who'd attacked him quickly retreated. In an instant, she drifted several meters away from the carriage. But there was someone even faster. A blue shadow caught up to her, and the two of them appeared to exchange strikes. The young maid groaned in pain, and her body was flung to the side. "Junior Preceptor! Save me, Preceptor!" Yuan Qing was overjoyed. He was practically raring to leap onto Yan Wushi and cling to him like a limpet. But at that moment, the air split loudly around them as countless shadowy figures suddenly materialized in the darkness and pounced towards him. Yuan Qing's delight transformed into terror. Ignoring his bleeding back, he stumbled and crawled far into the carriage as the experts escorted him escorting him engaged the enemy. When they left, Yuan Yang had told him that Northern Qi would doubtlessly try every trick in the book to stop the Shou-Chen alliance from happening. He'd said that Yan Wushi would head to the south with him so as to protect him during the trip. Back then, Yuan Qing had thought that the emperor was making a mountain out of a molehill. But, at the same time, few people could claim they'd had the honor of letting the Demon Lord protect them, so it greatly satisfied Yuan Qing's vanity. He'd done his asked and concealed Yan Wushi's identity, hence outsiders only thought there was another beauty like Yu Zi in the carriage. Never had Yuan Qing thought he'd have a brush with death right there and then. If he hadn't concealed Yan Wushi's presence, there was no way the enemy would have exposed themselves so quickly. They might have even tried more underhanded tactics, something more difficult to guard against. If his guardians could seize this opportunity and get rid of most of the attackers tonight, then the remaining journey to Chen would become a great deal safer. Oh my goodness. Yuan Qing understood this very well. With the ring of clashing weapons outside and the scent of blood still filling his nostrils, Yuan Qing felt like he was on the verge of suffocation. Even Yan Wushi's presence couldn't calm him down completely. Then, like he'd just thought of something, he sprang up and quickly pressed his finger beneath Yu Zi's nose. Only after some time did he release a sigh of relief, his entire body slumping inside the carriage. Outside, the battle continued. Yuan Qing wasn't the only one who'd been frightened. The merchants who accompanied them were all huddled fearfully inside their carriages, too afraid to leave. Several attendants had thought their martial ability sufficient and wanted to help. Within several moments, they were lying dead on the ground. They had been unable to withstand a single strike. The attackers were brutal, ruthless, and they'd boldly left their faces uncovered. Some people hadn't managed to escape in time, their lives falling to the blades straight away. 4 elders from Hihuan sect surrounded Yan Wushi. Though they outnumbered him, it was those 4 who seemed to be in trouble, their circumstances dire. A mere second later, their formation was in tatters, and they appeared close to defeat. Though Yan Wushi was alone and surrounded, there was something ostentatious about him, a domineering presence that said he was more than their equal. Just that alone was enough to overpower them all. On the other end, Shao Si sent a person flying with a palm strike, but he was unwilling to approach Yan Wushi. Instead, he tried to move forward towards the carriage where Yuan Qing was hiding. But he didn't forget to taunt Bai Rong as well. "Shimei, you truly can't do anything right, can you? You even managed to ruin a trivial task. How will Shizun trust you with any missions ever again?" Bai Rong was sitting in a tree on the sidelines. Arms crossed, she laughed. Xiao Shixian never told me that sect leader Yan was here too. If you're so capable, why don't you confront him properly yourself? Xiao Xi gave a contemptuous snort but didn't answer. He sent a blast from his palm at the carriage, rupturing it on the spot and revealing Yuan Qing's terrified face. However, he was quickly frustrated as more fighters arrived. Shizun asked us to assassinate one man, not show off and pick fights, he yelled at Bairong. Hurry up and help me while the elders are stalling Yan Wushi. The escorting experts were no match for Xiao Xi, but their superior numbers meant he couldn't just ignore them. Between two parties of roughly equal abilities, one's martial superiority didn't lie in flashy moves or internal cultivation, but rather their experience and technique. Every time Xiao Xi defeated one combatant, another one emerged. Unable to take it any longer, his annoyance gave way to irascibility. Yet Bairong was unmoved. We talked about this before coming here. The sect leader only told me to watch for a chance to assassinate Yuan Qing. It took me everything to escape from sect leader Yan. My chest still hurts. How could I possibly manage to help Xiao Shixian in this fight? Xiao Xi clenched his teeth in fury while paying his respects to all 18 generations of Bairong's ancestors, along with her master, Song Jing Song Jing. But for now, there were people in his way, so he couldn't spare the time to kill Yuan Qing. Xiao Xi caught sight of Yuan Qing dragging a beauty towards another carriage, her status unknown. Flames of rage burned hotter in his heart. He couldn't take it anymore. Xiao Xi used his full strength, quickly finishing off his enemies before charging after Yuan Qing. Yuan Qing had already hidden himself in the carriage by then, but Xiao Xi laughed coldly, thinking the man was terribly stupid. Did he believe the carriage was wrought of indestructible iron? It would have been better to run off into the forest. Thinking this, he did the same as before and sent a palm strike at the carriage. But this time, his attack was stopped entirely. Or more precisely, a mighty surge of true qi flooded towards him, forcing him to retreat. The blast of true qi blew the doors of the carriage open, revealing a pale, beautiful face. Oh, technically, injustice to server workers. Because Bairong imitated her assistant. So we get to add another to the list. I'm pretty sure she's still alive because she mentioned the horse. But the maid. There we go. Yep. So we're up to 8. Chapter 38. We're going to call it 128. The count steadily climbs. Yes. Okay. 38. Sympathy and tenderness. Xiao Xi would usually try for a touch or a taste of someone this beautiful. But at the moment, he couldn't even spare their face a thorough glance. It was imperative that they assassinate Yuan Qing tonight. Bairong had failed once. He couldn't fail the second attempt. Even though he knew that Yan Wushi's presence meant his chances were slim, he still had to risk it. Oh, yeah, horses on the carriage, the guy destroyed. I'll take that count, so we're up to 9. Xiao Xi drew a folding fan from his waist. With a flick of his wrist, sharp blades were unsheathed over the fan's surface. He flung out his hand, and the fan swept through the air at his opponent, just as he leapt forward with a tap of his toes, striking out with a powerful palm blast for a second bout of attacks. At first, Shen Qiao hadn't intended to take action. Each time he fought now meant that he'd need longer, and even longer, to recover later, and it might even deal irreparable damage to his foundations. Furthermore, Yan Wushi was there, so there should have been no need for him to fight. But at that moment, with Yuan Qing dragging Yu Si as he ran into Shen Qiao's carriage in a bid for help, all with the enemy mirrors away, closing in with the intent to kill, it was impossible for Shen Qiao to stand by any longer. Given Yan Wushi's style, Xiao Si hadn't expected him to be bringing any backup, so Xiao Si didn't suspect someone else would be concealed inside the carriage. Someone who shouldn't be underestimated. Recalling the latest rumors circulating through the Jianghu, he matched them to the man before him and immediately gleaned his identity. Sect leader Shen, as the mighty Grand Master of a Daoist sect, aren't you ashamed to be reduced to this? Serving Yan Wushi? He gave a sneering chuckle. But his moves came faster and faster, the blast from his palms surging like the rising tide. It crashed forth, wave after wave, leaving his opponent without a second to breathe. His fan seemed to have a mind of its own. It worked in tandem with Xiao Si's qi, filling whatever openings his attacks left, specifically seeking out the enemy's weak points. The result? An assault on two fronts. Anyone fighting him was forced to face a two-layered threat. Shen Qiao didn't want to drag out the fight. He didn't bother with his bamboo cane. Instead, he drew Shen He Tong Bei straight away. The sword glares twined and wove into a shining curtain that cloaked the sky. They sliced right through the powerful palm blast and even held the fan blades at bay. Xiao Si tried to break through, but discovered that the screen was like a flawless net. He couldn't find a single opening. On top of that, Shen Qiao was turning Xiao Si's own attacks back onto him. The screen reflected his palm blast, leaving him no space to breathe. When his defenses faltered just once, his chest took a heavy blow, and Xiao Si promptly hacked up a mouthful of blood. Hadn't they said that Shen Qiao was gravely injured? That his martial arts were greatly diminished? Xiao Si was alarmed and enraged. He could tell there was no benefit to carrying on the fight. Four elders were totally unable to hold back Yan Wushi, and the moment he extracted himself, it would be Xiao Si's turn to suffer. He just had to twist around and glance up into the tree again. Bai Rong, who had been sitting there, was now nowhere to be found. At that, Xiao Si gritted his teeth. Sect leader Shen's reputation is well earned. The Xiao will return for another lesson at a later date. After saying so, he sent a palm strike at an opening. When Shen Qiao raised his sword to block, Xiao Si sheathed the blades of his fan, and without a word to those elders, he vanished in the blink of an eye. That moment was a vivid testament to the selfishness and callousness of the demonic sects. Yuan Qing crawled out from behind Shen Qiao, still trembling with fear. My deepest thanks to this gentleman for his rescue. May I ask for his esteemed name? Shen Qiao returned his sword to its sheath. It's Shen Qiao. Yuan Qing saw his vacant eyes and immediately understood. So you are that... that Shen Gonzi. Word of the battle at the Su residence had spread like wildfire, along with Shen Qiao's name. Whenever he was mentioned, Yan Wushi's name inevitably followed, and in the end, the conversation would conclude with suggestive smiles. Yuan Qing had no connection to the Jianghu and had only heard a bit of hearsay. Seeing the man himself today, he had to silently exclaim that Shen Qiao really was a beauty. He had a striking charm despite his sickly air. Especially striking when the beauty had drawn his sword and fought. In contrast to his frail appearance, He'd revealed swordplay so equanimous and assured that it was impossible to look away. Truly a feast for the eyes. It was unfortunate that such a beauty was already spoken for. Yuan Qing felt it truly a pity. Oh, everybody's so horny for our boy. Shen Qiao did not know that Yuan Qing was thinking any of this. He nodded at Yuan Qing with a smile, using the same placid expression. But senior official Yuan liked to check on the madam behind him now. It seems she's fainted, said Yuan Qing. Let me see. Yuan Qing lifted Yu Zi's hand for him. Shen Qiao checked her pulse. She's fine. Her gate of sleep was struck, so it's an acupoint that can induce sleep in the victim when struck. He unblocked Yu Zi's acupoint, and she slowly stirred to consciousness. The sight of Yuan Qing and Shen Qiao right in front of her gave her another fright. Clearly, she was still rattled. Yuan Qing quickly held her down. Everything's fine now. Junior Preceptor Yan and Shen Gonzi saved us. Shaolin, said Yuzi. She... Well, at least this guy respects boundaries and is smart enough to steer clear of Yan Wushi. Yeah. He does seem to have a little bit of, respect women juice. A little bit. Just like a little medicine cup worth of respect women juice. And that kind of usually goes along with boundaries. Having a healthier view of boundaries. Shaolin, said Yuzi, not Yuzu. She's not Lemon. Said Yuzi. She. Someone from Hehuan sect disguised themselves as Shaolin to get close to you, said Yuan Qing. They wanted to assassinate me by using you, so I fear Shaolin may have already met a grim fate. That might not be the case, Shen Qiao interjected. Since the madam is fine, it's possible her maid is as well. I asked senior official Yuan to have his men conduct a search. Perhaps they'll discover something. Yuzi tugged at Yuan Qing's sleeve, her eyes brimming with tears. Shaolin has accompanied this concubine for a long time. She's always been so loyal to me, master. Please send someone to look for her. Yuan Qing melted. Of course. I'll tell someone to look right away. Elsewhere, the 4 Hehuan elders had finally lost to Yan Wushi. One had been killed on the spot. Another was gravely wounded. As he fled, Yan Wushi dealt him another critical blow. Barring a miracle, he wouldn't live much longer. Yeah, we do get a little justice for the service worker. Do you think we should cross one off, or we just leave it because injustice happened? Or should we make a new poll where it's just here? Justice. We'll do justice. All right, we've got 1 justice for the service workers. The remaining 2 were injured as well, and it took everything they had just to escape. Yuan Qing turned his head to look at Shen Qiao, sitting there holding his sword, his eyes lifeless. A swell of tender pity arose in him at the sight, and he completely forgot about Shen Qiao's early heroic display of martial force. Is Shen Gonzi tired? He asked. You may rest in my carriage. There's some food there as well. A little presumptuous there, my dude. Shen Qiao shook his head. No need to trouble yourself, senior official Yuan. Yuan Qing laughed. It's no trouble at all. You saved my life just now. I can't thank you enough. Your complexion is a bit pale. You must be suffering from blood qi deficiency. I brought some gelatin pastries for the trip, and will send them to you later. Take 1 slice a day to replenish your blood. They're sweet and go down easy. Shen Qiao silently pressed a hand to his forehead. Yuan Qing thought he was feeling dizzy and reached out to support him. But then he heard Yan Wushi's languid voice drift over. I was fighting a bloody battle out there, and now I see my Qiao about to be seduced away. How perfectly agonizing. Shen Qiao didn't comment. He didn't even need to look to know that Yan Wushi's clothes had not a drop of blood on them, let alone the remains of a bloody battle. But Yan Wushi's unconvincing act actually elicited some embarrassed guilt from Yuan Qing. He quickly withdrew his hand. The junior preceptor jests. I only saw that Shengonzi seemed a little fatigued. I'm deeply grateful to the junior preceptor for tonight. I dare not imagine what would have happened otherwise. Oh my goodness, I think we're being blessed with a second picture in one stream. Not quite yet, but soon. Outside their carriage, the surroundings were in an uproar. Not only had Yuan Qing's men been injured, but many of the merchants accompanying them had been caught in the disaster too. Yuan Qing was the enemy's only target, but the demonic sects never let morality get in the way of their attacks. Only their whims mattered. Anytime there was someone in their way, they'd kill them. The merchants had thought that traveling with an official would be safer, but instead they were met with catastrophe. Deep in helplessness and grief, they busied themselves with consoling their fellow merchants, creating a second commotion. I'll say that's injustice to service workers, because I view merchants as service workers. So we're up to 10. Yuan Qing followed Shen Qiao's suggestion and sent his men out to search. Sure enough, they found Yuzi's young maid by a rock next to a nearby creek. When the girl had gone outside to relieve herself, she'd walked some distance away to avoid being seen, but then had suddenly been knocked out. Upon waking up, she had no idea what had transpired. Wherever Yan Wushi went, an invisible crushing pressure followed. The entire procession slept not a wink that night, surrounded by a ceaseless clamor. Only the area around the carriage where Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao were staying was cast in an eerie silence. Yuan Qing left the carriage with Yuzi, then had someone bring them food to show his thanks. It wasn't very convenient to cook outdoors, but Yuan Qing had brought some jerky and candied preserves along on the trip. There were even fresh melons. He was obviously a man who indulged in pleasures. Shen Qiao had no interest in the jerky, but he did partake in quite a few of the preserves. No matter where he went, his sweet tooth never changed. Yan Wushi leaned against a cushion and popped a piece of jerky into his mouth, then chewed languidly. A freshly boiled pot of honey tea from Ruru sat beside him. The scene cut a stark contrast between the clamor outside and the silence inside. The assassination failed this time, said Shen Qiao, but there might be a second attempt. There are too many openings around senior official Yuan. I fear protecting him will be difficult. That won't be a problem, said Yan Wushi. He has a food tester to test for poison. This happened due to his own foolishness. He insisted on bringing a woman with him, and that was exploited. From now on, he'll be much more careful. Besides, even if he does die, it doesn't matter. I have another copy of the letter. When the time comes, the deputy envoy can present that to the Emperor of Chen instead. Still, Yuan Qing does have quite the silver tongue, and he's a fantastic speaker. Few could replace him. That's why the Emperor of Shou values him so highly. Shen Qiao recalled Yuan Qing's breathless stream of words just a moment ago. Involuntarily, his lips tugged up into a hint of a smile. Yan Wushi sighed. My Qiao truly is loved by all. Yuan Qing is vivacious, so he goes without saying. But even the demoness Bai Rong has developed a soft spot for you. I'm forced to watch you carefully and fear that you might vanish at any time. Shen Qiao wrinkled his brow. Don't speak such nonsense. Since when did I have anything going on with Bai Rong, sect leader Yang? She disguised herself as that young maid to kill Yuan Qing, said Yan Wushi. In the past, there's no way that maid or Yuan Qing's concubine would have survived. But this time, she showed mercy to both. Do you think it was because of Yuan Qing or because of you? Sharp as she is, she'd likely already guessed you were here and wanted to leave a good impression on you, lest you despise her more, no? Then he clicked his tongue twice. How difficult life must be for my Qiao. Born a numbskull, he spent his entire life with his head empty of anything other than morals and cultivation. He knows nothing about the love between men and women. If my venerable self hadn't enlightened him, I fear he might never have understood. With Yan Wushi, it's always my Qiao, as if Shen Qiao was something that belonged to him. Shen Qiao had refuted him a couple of times to little effect. By now, he was numb to it and let him do as he pleased. But what a pity, Yan Wushi went on. Her love is doomed to die before it was even born. If Jing Xing discovers her feelings, how would he torture her, I wonder? Shen Qiao was bewildered. Does Huan sect forbid their disciples from falling in love? Yan Wushi burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha! Do you truly not know? Huan sect is famous for their parasitic cultivation. Everyone in the sect, whether man or woman, practices pair cultivation. As far as this venerable one can tell, Bai Rong is no longer a virgin. I trust that her primordial yin had already been plucked by her master, Sang Jing Sing. So sometimes translates as dual cultivation. This is a cultivation practice that uses sex between participants to improve cultivation prowess. Can also be used as a simple euphemism for sex. Astonishment filled Shen Qiao's face. It was a long time before he said, but he's her master. So what if he is? Do you really think someone like Sang Jing Xing, who pays no mind to gender and has a special love of virgins, would let another man claim his beautiful disciple's primordial yin? I don't know how many men Bai Rong his pair cultivated with, but Sen Jing Xing is certainly one of them. Chen Qiao frowned and didn't speak. Yan Wushi laughed. Here's Qiao's bad habit again, feeling all sorry and tender towards the weak. Sen Jing Xing aside, if Bai Rong truly didn't want to pair cultivate with her sect members, she could have found a way to avoid it. But look at the speed of her martial progress. That's all from parasitic cultivation, and she must have done it of her own free will. And still you feel sorry for her? What about that woman is worth your sympathy? If you want to feel sorry for someone, why not feel sorry for me? Shen Qiao was dumbfounded. Bai Rong isn't worth my sympathy, but sect leader Yan is. I fought 1-on-4 tonight. Isn't that worth some sympathy? He took Shen Qiao's hand and placed it on his chest. Look, my little heart is just thumping away even now. Right at this moment, Yuan Qing's voice came from outside. Junior Preceptor, Shen Gongzi, may I come in? Shen Qiao wanted to pull his hand back from Yan Wushi, but was caught off guard when Yan Wushi yanked first, sending him toppling into the other man instead. Yuan Qing didn't hear anything and took the silence as tacit consent. He opened the doors and lifted the curtains and was greeted with this scene, which immediately struck him dumb. Because from his point of view, it didn't look like Yan Wushi had meddled, but rather like Shen Qiao threw himself into Yan Wushi's arms. Seeing Yuan Qing's dumbfounded expression, Yan Wushi raised an eyebrow. A mean-spiritedness surged within him. Without warning, he grabbed Shen Qiao's chin and forced a kiss upon him right there. For a moment, Shen Qiao was stunned. Then he promptly struck out with his palm, but Yan Wushi had been prepared. He neutralized the attack, tapping Shen Qiao's acupoints while he was at it. He gathered the utterly incapacitated Shen Qiao into his arms and lowered his head, prying open his lips and forced him to accept the invasion. I love the expressions that this artist always gives the background characters, because we have such like beautiful details on our boys, and then the background characters like, oh my god, oh my. Smug bastard. Poor Qiao. He puts up with so much shit and gets into so much shit because of Yan Wushi. Shen Qiao furrowed his brows hard. Not because he'd lost himself to bliss, but from the torment of his restricted acupoints that kept him from struggling. Even with his good-natured personality, by now he was boiling with rage. I've never seen a full-body yikes before. And Qiao is so not on board with this. No, he's really not. Unfortunately, he wasn't Yan Wushi's match in martial arts, so all he could do was give Yan Wushi free rein. His slender neck was forced back while an arm remained relentlessly clamped around his waist. His jaw was sore, and it feebly slipped closed as a thread of silver dribbled from the corner of his lips. But the man ravishing him paid no heed to any of this. He deepened the kiss further. Yuan Qing couldn't take his eyes off the arresting, erotic scene before him. His mouth had even gone a little dry. Finally, Yan Wushi relaxed his arms and turned to look at Yuan Qing. Not done looking yet? He asked. Yuan Qing boasted of himself as a romantic man. He was a well-versed veteran with copious experience. But right now, whether it was because he had seen something he shouldn't have, or because Yan Wushi was simply too intimidating, he stammered and fumbled through his words. I'm done. Then why haven't you gotten lost already? Yuan Qing was struck speechless. Then he really did get lost, stumbling head over heels like his soul was about to leap out of his body. Yan Wushi looked back at Shen Qiao. For a moment, he was speechless himself, for Shen Qiao was already unconscious. Poor man. Probably not from being kissed dizzy. Rather, it was the combination of being unable to fight back and temporary suffocation. Basically, he'd passed out from rage. I mean, valid. Yan Wushi had never seen anything like it, and a laugh escaped him. He also threw in a few clicks of his tongue to express his sympathy. Poor thing. He didn't think he'd gone overboard. Instead, he felt that Qi Fenggui's disciples were no fun at all. He needs to fix his definition of fun. I missed. I think Yan Wushi causes a lot of people to pass out from rage. I could definitely see it. Both in book and real life. Alright. Chapter 39, our last chapter of the night. Meeting beneath the moonlight. It had been hundreds of years since Eastern Wu had established their capital in Jiankang. During this time, Eastern Jin had migrated south and used the Yangtze River as a barrier to isolate themselves from the military chaos of the north. And so Jiankang became the most prosperous city, not only in the Central Plains, but in all the land. Merchants from all over gathered there, while travelers and wanderers came and went like weaving shuttles. In the daytime, horses flooded the streets in endless streams, and when night fell, the city transformed into a sea of lanterns that shone all through to the dawn. The brothels were even livelier. Their incense cages and gilded rooms were sleepless all night long. Cities like Chang'an and Yicheng were also capitals, but the toll they'd taken, suffering through extensive warfare, was evident. Everyone favored the comparatively peaceful Jiangnan, which saw little fighting. It was seen as such a paradise that there was even a saying that all the land's flowers gathered in Jiangkang. The officials of northern Shou, such as Yuan Qing, might not say so out loud, but in their hearts they all greatly admired Jiangkang. They are pretty. They're really interesting descriptions, I agree, Truffle. The attendants accompanying them had no reason to hide their feelings. They were already gasping in awe. This greatly flattered the officials of Chen, who'd come out to receive them, and who couldn't resist pointing out the city's various vistas along the way. Once inside the city, Yuan Qing's party naturally stayed at the guest complex Chen provided for them. Yan Wushi was put up there as well on the basis of his official position, and because he'd been their savior. Yuan Qing willingly ceded the main courtyard, moving into the side yard to fret over his concubine Yu Zi. Since the scare that night, she'd fallen ill and become bedridden, then remained that way. Only after they'd settled themselves in the city did she begin to recover. After the failed assassination, He Huan sect had showed no signs of movement. At first, Yuan Qing was still in a state of apprehension, but then he considered Yan Wushi. If the assassin succeeded while Yan Wushi was around, his reputation as the Hua Yue sect leader would be in ruins. And in the Jianghu, one's pride was worth more than their life. With this in mind, Yuan Qing gradually relaxed and took his beloved concubine to tour Jiangkan while he waited for the summons from the Emperor of Chen. One day, while Shen Qiao was listening to the maid read a book to him in his room, someone came to report that Yuan Qing was there to visit. At Shen Qiao's nod, Ru put down the book and opened the door. Yuan Qing entered and looked around. Oh, Junior Preceptor Yan isn't here? Shen Qiao laughed. The two of us have always roomed separately. If Senior Official Yuan wishes to see him, you've come to the wrong room. However, I've heard that Sect Leader Yan has business today. He left early this morning. Yuan Qing chuckled dryly. Excellent, excellent. His esteemed self is too frightening. Every time I talk to him, I'm more nervous than I am with His Majesty. Ru couldn't keep a giggle from escaping. Yuan Qing had always been the type to indulge beauties. When he heard her laugh, he didn't grow angry, but smiled at her instead. This made Ru feel a little embarrassed. Yuan Qing turned his smile to Shen Qiao. With the weather so fine, would Shen Gonzi like to go for a stroll outside? Jiankang sits on the banks of the Huai River, and I heard that many ferry crossings dot it, each with their own market. Why not go out for a look around and purchase some fresh river delicacies along the way? Then we can have the complex prepare a feast for us tonight. After this, he seemed to think of something else. But then, you do come from a Daoist background. Might you be required to abstain from meat and eat only vegetarian foods? No such thing, said Shen Qiao. I only fear that my poor eyesight might be a burden on your outing. Yuan Qing laughed. Ha! Shen Gonzi saved my life. I was a burden to you then, so there's no need to be so modest. Shen Qiao didn't refuse him a second time. Then I shall be so rude as to accept. The guest complex wasn't far from one of the crossings, so Yuan Qing declined to take a carriage. Instead, he brought Yu Zi and the others along for an outing on foot. At first, he was even worried that it might be inconvenient for Shen Qiao, but although Shen Qiao had to use a bamboo cane for support, he was no slower than the rest of them and didn't require anyone's assistance. He walked abreast of them and he walked abreast with Yuan Qing, no different from anyone else. Yuan Qing realized that Shen Qiao carried no sword. Shen Gonzi, where's your sword? As if deducing the source of his concern, Shen Qiao smiled and said, Senior Official Yuan need not worry. If we encounter the enemy, my bamboo cane will serve well enough to fend off a few of them. Furthermore, this is still Jiankang. With the Lin Chuan Academy keeping watch, Yihuan sect won't be so reckless and overconfident to attack us here. Shen Qiao had seen right through his anxieties. Yuan Qing's face went red, embarrassed. No wonder I feel that everything has been much more peaceful since we entered the city. The junior preceptor was even confident enough to leave and take care of business, and that is why. Chen and Shou are allied to each other now, said Shen Qiao explained. If you fell to assassins inside Jian Khan, then forget discussing the alliance. Chen wouldn't even be able to explain themselves to the Emperor of Shou. So they will do their absolute best to ensure your safety. There are martial artists guarding the complex at all times. You just haven't noticed. Yuan Qing crept closer to him and whispered, Shen Gonzi, I know you're not the type to be a kept man, and I'd never dare to look down on you. The junior preceptor isn't around today, so I'm taking a chance in telling you the truth. Do you know how those in Cheng'an see you? Shen Qiao smiled, but didn't speak. Yuan Qing thought that meant he didn't know, and so tactfully told him. They call you a dragon trapped in the shallows, forced to depend on sect leader Yan. They think that to protect yourself, that you cast aside your morals and integrity. But I've traveled with you, and you saved my life, so of course I know the truth is nothing of the sort. But it's like how the saying goes. Rumors can twist even metal. If you're able, I suggest you stay away from Junior Preceptor Yan. Why let others smear and humiliate you for no reason? Even I grow angry hearing what they say. Shen Qiao knew that Yuan Qing was telling him this because of the scene he'd witnessed on the carriage the other day, but it wasn't something Shen Qiao could succinctly explain. He could only say, I'm deeply grateful for your kindness, but you're mistaken. I don't have that kind of relationship with sect leader Yan, but because he is a little erratic, his actions often surpass all expectations. I know, said Yuan Qing. Of course, you're not a kept man who depends on sect leader Yan. I also hold no prejudice towards homosexuals, but given your circumstances now, if you and Junior Preceptor Yan are in love with each other, I fear that the rumors and slander you encounter will only hurt you, not Junior Preceptor Yan. Shen Qiao was at a loss. We're not in love with each other, and I'm not a homosexual either. I know, said Yuan Qing. It's not something you can say out loud. We share a silent understanding, so it's fine. Shen Qiao lost the will to speak. Whatever Yuan Qing said after that, he let it flow in one ear and out the other. The ferry crossing was a hubbub of shouting and chatter. A great variety of goods were scattered about, and there were quite a few people like the Yuan Qing, those on foot who had come to browse and shop. Others were in carriages or on horseback, and yet more were calling out farewells to family from the riverbank or from docking ships. Quite suddenly, everyone was shoulder to shoulder as carriages and horses streamed like the river itself, on the verge of trampling each other. Then a horse charged at them from behind. Perhaps it had been spooked, or its owner had driven it poorly. In a bid to dodge, their party was forced to scatter in different directions, and Shen Qiao became separated from the others. However, he wasn't worried, as Yuan Qing had multiple men around to protect him. Slowly, he walked back towards the market, following the riverside stalls. Now and then, he heard the peddlers hawking things he was interested in, and he stopped to inspect their wares. Though his poor eyesight was obvious to the peddlers, his clothing and bearings were completely unlike those of a beggar, so they didn't dare to treat him with contempt. Rather, they enthusiastically talked up their merchandise to him. Sir, please take a look at what I have. These are all woven from the finest bamboo strips. Baskets, chairs, I have them all. And here are some little knickknacks. You can bring them home for your daughter or son to play with. When he saw Shen Qiao crouch, he picked up a bamboo ball and thrust it into his hands. Here, feel one. It's very smooth, no splinters at all. It is indeed very smooth. Shen Qiao stroked it while smiling. I'll take one then. From beside him came the sweet voice of a child. Uncle, uncle, my brother broke my little bamboo chick, so father told me to come and buy another. The peddler must have known the girl's parents. Your little brother was being naughty again? But I don't have any bamboo chicks left. The one you bought before was the last one. It takes a long time to weave one, and Uncle is busy now, so I'll weave one for you in a couple of days. Then I'll help out Uncle over here, said the little girl. That way, Uncle can finish selling faster. Can you weave me a chick sooner then? The peddler burst out laughing. Oh, what help can you do for me? Hurry on home, or your parents will worry when they can't find you. Oh. Filled with disappointment, the little girl seemed to be on the verge of tears. Abruptly, Shen Qiao said, Do you still have bamboo strips? The peddler was puzzled. I do. Does this gentleman want to purchase bamboo strips? I want to make something with your bamboo strips, then pay whatever I owe you. May I? The peddler laughed. This gentleman is too modest. Of course you can. He picked up a handful of bamboo strips and gave them to Shen Qiao. But can you really weave something? What, with your eyes? Shen Qiao laughed as well. I weaved some when I was young, for my younger sisters and brothers, so that they wouldn't be bored. I still remember a little. He said a little, but his hands moved swiftly. With nimble fingers, he tied a knot in the bamboo, wrapped one end around the other, then inserted it into a tucked-away slot he'd already woven. In the blink of an eye, a little chick had come to life. The little girl was surprised and overjoyed. A chick! A chick! Shen Qiao handed it to her. I don't know how your last one looked, he said with a smile, so I just wove one at random. It might not be as pretty. It's pretty! Very pretty! Thank you, big brother! You're the best! Off to the side, the peddler said a little sourly, I'm not that much older than this gentleman, but you call him big brother while calling me uncle. Shen Qiao laughed out loud. The little girl ran off, skipping and prancing. Shen Qiao's legs were somewhat numb from all the crouching, so he stood, then paid the peddler for the bamboo strips and ball. The peddler declined his money, but Shen Qiao insisted, forcing the coins into the other man's hand. May I ask what direction the guest complex for foreign envoys is in? Right, double standards there. Probably because he's pretty. Are you a foreign envoy who's come to Chen, sir? Understanding dawned on the peddler, and he continued. The complex isn't far from here, but with all the crowds, you won't be able to find it with your eyes. I'll take your esteemed self there. Shen Qiao was grateful, but asked, What about your stall? The peddler laughed. No need to worry. I come here to sell bamboo wares every day, and they're nothing valuable. Plus, the stall owners here all know each other. I'll just ask them to keep an eye on things. How could I allow a guest from afar like yourself to get lost? He led Shen Qiao back along the ferry crossing. The main roads are full of people, so it's easy to get lost. Taking the alleyways is faster here. The peddler chuckled and supported Shen Qiao's arm to guide him. If this gentleman is staying here a few more days, he ought to take a couple more strolls through the city. Most of the food in the south is quite wonderful and painstakingly prepared. Once you start eating them, I'm sure you'll... Something whistled through the air, so small it was easy to miss. The peddler hadn't noticed and kept talking, but Shen Qiao's expression shifted minutely. With a sweep of his cane, he knocked the tiny needle off course and into a wall. At the same time, the peddler's voice came to an abrupt stop, and he fell limply to the ground. The person who'd ambushed Shen Qiao had also attacked the peddler. Shen Qiao couldn't reach everywhere at once. He'd blocked the needle that came at him, but had no time to do the same for the peddler. He'd acted a little too late. "And which friend is this? Why must you hide yourself so?" He crouched down to check on the peddler's condition and was somewhat relieved to see that the other man was only unconscious. And we come to 11. "Shenlong is so gentle and kind, even to a bamboo seller, so why is he so mean to me?" The sweet fragrance wafted over to him, along with a voice so honeyed that it dripped. A small frown settled over Shen Qiao's features. "By wrong?" She was sitting happily atop a wall, her legs crossed at the ankles as she swung them back and forth. In her hand was a peony that she must have picked from somewhere. "It's been a while," she said. Didn't we just meet when you tried to assassinate Yuan Qing in the middle of the night?" "Don't you know the saying, 1 day apart feels like 3 autumns?" said Bairong. Hey, autumns. So many autumns have passed already." Whether the speaker was Yan Wushi or Bairong, Shen Qiao could never adapt to such a borderline flirtatious manner of speech. All he could do was remain silent. Bairong rolled her eyes, then tossed him the flower she held. "Here, catch." Shen Qiao caught it by reflex. He thought it was a disguised weapon of some sort, but a touch told him that it was a flower. The realization startled him. When she saw his expression, Bairong grew even more gleeful. "You thought I threw some kind of hidden weapon at you? Do you really think me so devious?" Shen Qiao shook his head. "That's not it." "What isn't it?" asked Bairong. "When you tried to kill Yuan Qing, his concubine and her maid had no chance of escape, yet you didn't kill them. That proves that you aren't an indiscriminate murderer with no moral standards. On their behalf, I ought to thank you for the mercy you've shown." Bairong blinked. "How do you know I showed them mercy? Maybe I was just too lazy to do more." Shen Qiao smiled but didn't argue with her. Bairong sighed. "You're so handsome when you smile. You really should smile more. It makes me very happy that you think so well of me. Will you let me kiss you?" Right after she spoke, she moved. Shen Qiao thought she really was about to kiss him. He reflexively backed up 3 steps, only to realize that she was still sitting atop the wall. She'd only been teasing him. Bairong laughed so hard she almost tumbled off the wall. "Shenlong, why are you so cute? I just keep liking you more and more." "There must be a reason you came to find me, isn't there?" asked Shen Qiao. "What? I can't come looking for you without one," Bairong said, all smiles. "All right, there's no reason not to tell you. I've been following you from afar, hoping to find the chance to poison you, knock you out, and drag you away. Unfortunately, you're far too alert, so I could never just give it a go. Until just now. I went through so much difficulty just to talk to you." Her words were mixed truths and lies, half sincere and half fastidious. Shen Qiao didn't know whether or not to believe her, so he stayed silent and kept his guard up. "The chick you wove for that little girl was so pretty," Bairong added. "Can you make one for me too?" Shen Qiao was taken aback, then shook his head. "I don't have any bamboo strips with me." After thinking for a while, he tossed her the bamboo ball in his hand. "Here, you can play with this ball instead." A giggle burst out of Bairong. "Are you coaxing me like a child?" Although she objected, she quickly grabbed the ball and began tossing it up and down in her palm. "Has little Bai Niangzi ever thought about leaving Huan sect?" asked Shen Qiao. Why suddenly ask? Bairong said curiously. Halfway through her sentence, her expression turned altogether severe, though her tone remained flippant. Sect leader Shen must have heard something from sect leader Yan, and now he thinks our Hihuan sect filthy and foul. Are we undeserving of speaking with you, the lofty sect leader of Xuandu Mountain? Murderous intent was pouring from her by the time she finished, as if she would attack if she found Shen Qiao's answer unacceptable. No, said Shen Qiao. Bairong's expression changed faster than the flip of a page. In an instant, she once again wore a smile as lovely as a flower. Or did you want to call Hihuan's sect deplorable? To say that our men and women pair cultivate without concern for rank and seniority? And you're telling me to change sides and correct my ways? Shen Qiao frowned. I only feel that you might not like staying there. Hihuan sect is the place I grew up. If I don't stay there, where can I go? To Huan Yue sect? Or to Fa Jing sect? Is murder better than pear cultivation in your eyes? Everyone calls Hihuan sect a demonic sect, but isn't Huan Yue sect one as well? Don't forget that Yan Wushi has far more blood on his hands than I do. And if you're talking about those prestigious, righteous sects that claim that they're so virtuous, if you're still the leader of Xuandu Mountain, would you be willing to accept me? And even if you were, what about everyone else on Xuandu Mountain? Shen Qiao was left a little astounded by her long string of questions. Yes, you're right, he said with a sigh. I misspoke. He hadn't put much thought into his question. He only felt that Bairong was different from someone like Huo Shijing, and that it was a pity for her to remain in Hihuan sect. Bairong's tone was honey-sweet. I know that Shen Long thinks I've been suffering in Hihuan sect. From the moment you were willing to help, even a horse, I realized that you were a gentle, kind-hearted person. Good people like you are rare. This one will treasure those feelings of yours, but she has her own plans, so you need not worry about her. I'll tell you a secret. She suddenly jumped from the wall and floated to Shen Qiao, reaching out to tug on his sleeve. Though Shen Qiao quickly evaded, it didn't ruin her good mood. A trace of cunning shone there instead. You'll reap nothing good if you stay with Yan Wushi, she said, for a disaster will soon descend. To avoid becoming collateral damage, you should hurry up and put some distance. She hadn't yet finished her sentence when her expression changed, but it wasn't due to Shen Qiao. She stared straight ahead, far into the distance, before bursting out. This one has important matters to attend to, so Shenlong need not see her off. Then she was gone, vanished without a trace. She must have used every iota of her qinggong. At first, Shen Qiao assumed it was Yan Wushi's arrival that had forced her to beat a hasty retreat. But in the next moment, he realized that was wrong. The newcomer wasn't Yan Wushi. And on that note, that's actually where we're going to leave it for this week. Because I'm a terrible human being and wanted to leave it on a cliffhanger. So you'll have to find out where and who it is next week on Tuesday. Or whenever you're listening to this. It's also next time, though. So. But yeah. We went through quite a few things tonight. So we had the whole almost like side quest to Chen. That they're going through. Yeah, dun dun dun. Kind of a little more by wrong time in this chapter. I like that. You have a good truffle. You have a good truffle. You have a good evening too, Truffle. Have a great weekend, everybody. Right? Can't wait for more of Yan Wushi's shenanigans. I'm right there with you, Momar Rover. He's probably up to shenanigans right now. We'll see them later. But good night, Chi Chi Kiki. Have a great weekend. And if you're still here, good night, Peacock Pages. Good night, Momar's Rover. And good night, everyone else who is listening or lurking. And also, oh, there you are. Good night. And or just anyone who's listening now. I hope you had a nice time listening. Oh, wait. I forgot to do the fanfic Rex. Hang on. If anyone's still here, I've got the Rex. You're welcome. I'll do them real quick. I'll just go through them real quick. Anyone that's still here can listen. Okay. I gotta go to my page. Okay. So, the fanfic Rex for this week, for Scum Villain, I picked The Greatest Gift by Mia Ru. And it's actually a Moshang one-shot. So I realized while going through some of my fics that I hadn't really put one out in a while, or put out like a strictly Moshang fic. So I thought I'd do that one. It's pretty short, but it's a very sweet read. It's really cute. So the official summary is Mobe Jun's birthday is coming up, and Shang Qinghua remembers that there was this cool crystal that gave him resistance to high temperatures. But they said it was too OP for a supporting character, so he broke it to the next chapter. But now there are no annoying readers. There's only the endless adoration of him for his king. Why not give him the crystal as a birthday present? It's not like the system is given another background to the crystal, right? Right. For the Scum MDZS fic recommendation, I picked Warming Up to Him by Barisan. Since it was getting colder out, I kind of was like, yeah. It is a short, simple one shot, primarily from Lan Kairen's point of view for the majority of it. This one does deal with like drowning and primarily hypothermia. A little bit of spoilers, but like if that is a trigger, please do not read it. But it's a really interesting story. So the summary is Wei Wuxian finds out that the cold springs are not a good place for a nap. Lan Kairen finds him and uncovers a Jiang secret. Will he be able to manage the feelings? No clickbait. It was also inspired by Warmth by Quiet Crash. And the author even says this is nothing but self-indulgent. It's the usual Wei Wuxian gets hurt and everyone else is horrified shenanigans. Set after the scene where Wei Wuxian goes to Cold Springs and invites Lan Zhan to Yumeng. Yep. So that's it for the fanfic Rex. So now everybody can go. Good night.